And hello. Hi, Stephen. Hi. Thank you for coming on Sanctuary and being on Sanctuary with me. And we've talked about this a little bit. And I just want to introduce you to folks. And I've known Stephen for a while, and I've seen him in his equity focused work as a grant maker and also as someone who's really dedicated to philanthropy and redirecting funds into places where it can do the most positive change, and also resource redistribution, which is something really powerful that I've had the privilege and honor of um, hearing and seeing and experiencing alongside you on your journey. Also, I think that it's pretty amazing that you are beginning your consulting. You
Mm,
was talking
yeah.
about your consulting, and yeah, so congratulations on that. And I wanted to talk. You're also a ceramicist.
Mhm.
It is, I think, it's just amazing, right? Like you're a maker of vessels, and you create and you make. And hi, Cecilia. Hi, Andres. H. Andres. Um, and and so something else that I know about you is that you're a spiritual person, a deeply spiritual person, and you were raised Buddhist. And that you and I have been working together in spiritual identity and in some of the different courses, and I just think there's this really interesting place where spirituality doesn't really talk about money, or soul doesn't really go, oh, money, let's talk about money. And I also, it's like this mystical practical idea, right? Like how to attend to the mystical and the practical. And so I also think that practicality often doesn't ask like, oh, well, what are the ethics, or what is the soul, or what is the spirit, or what is the spirit of what we're trying to do, or and that's something I've seen you do. Like you're always asking, what is the spirit of this? And what is the motive? And how come we're doing this? And what does this mean? And really looking at this overview and this bit much larger picture. Um, and so I wanted to be in a conversation with you. So thank you for coming and allowing me to do that really lengthy like introduction. Um, but I wanted to ask first of all about Sanctuary. The podcast is called Sanctuary, and I wanted to ask like what that means to you uh, in your world and in your life.
Well, for me, sanctuary is such an interesting concept, because not everyone is granted a sanctuary. And sometimes you have to really fight for your sanctuary, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like um, we're in quite a battle right now in many ways. And in some of those ways, it's about the concept of sanctuary. Um, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up um, in a household that didn't have much sanctuary.
Mm,
So my
mhm.
sanctuary was always the bathtub. And I would draw myself about a 2 hour bath pretty much every night, because it was the only place that I had that was safe and I had control over it.
Mm,
Um, and all of the things that a person would want out of a sanctuary, including I felt a deep and meaningful connection to the water, and to the water spirits, and then also to
mhm.
myself throughout time. It was a place that I really went to gather wisdom from myself in the future, which is like a very interesting um thing, that I would like ask myself questions, and I would pour little things into the water, and I would be like,
Oh,
now I'm walking, right? Now I'm walking into this water, and in this life I will now have whatever, it was really just like soap and like some essential oils,
oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
put all of this like concept and meaning. And I turned my bathtub into a cauldron that I was at the center of, which I think is that's beautiful. And
Wow.
so that was my sanctuary, and that's still, you know of all the, I'm calling in from the yurt, which is on my family property. My family has a property. It's not my property, and it's not a family property like we're rich or anything, but it's my family bought land and they put up a yurt, and I live in that yurt now.
Right, no one can see the ceiling too of the yurt behind you.
Yeah.
Hi, Taylor. Hi, Hadil. Hi, Miranda. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so sweet. So also, during this time, I mean, what I wrote on our announcement for this evening was that aw, Taylor, you live in a yurt. So cool. It's true.
It is literally cool.
It
It's
is
very
so,
cool.
yeah, it is so cool and cold too. I mean, right now, oh my God, today, oh, woo, I did a house blessing earlier today and it was the coldest house of my whole life.
No.
I was like, oh my gosh, this house is so cold. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's cold for a lot of reasons, but so
Mm.
I wanted to ask you, I wanted to ask you, one of the things that I posted when I was making this announcement was that, at this late stage capitalism, uh, uh, spot that we're at, um, I really wanted to have you on to talk about the soul and about money. And I wanted to be in a conversation with you around it. And I also is energy, just like anything else. It's just energy.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what that means to you and what you've noticed about that particular energy. And yeah, and what are your thoughts about where our energy is going right now? And you know, how can we? Yeah, how can we? I'll try not to do 6 questions in one, which is my
Yeah.
habit.
I'm like, hold on, let me get a piece of paper and a pen.
Take some notes. I'm just
Yeah. That,
it's a thing. It's a thing. My students are always like, "Okay, one, okay, I'll answer that one in a minute." Right. But just, what is it? What are your what are your thoughts about how we can be in this time and about money as energy? We can start there. Just
yeah.
open money as energy or, you know.
So, you mentioned that I was raised Buddhist, and that is true.
Mhm.
Um, I'll maybe take it a step back and introduce myself um, again in like a different kind of form. Uh, so my father was Buddhist. My father is also a black man. He was like the only black Buddhist man in all of Maryland, where I grew up. Um, and my mother, who is white, was a metaphysical minister. And so this concept of money is energy has been walking with me for my entire life. And
Mm,
so
that's
this concept
cool.
of abundance, right? Um, abundance is not just having a yacht. Abundance is actually has almost nothing to do with what's in our bank accounts.
Mm,
Abundance has everything to do with how much life there is in our life.
mm,
And how much life there is in our life actually has more to do with alignment than it has to do with anything else, right? Like it's not
yeah.
um yeah, it's not brain science. Like it's not that complicated like you but we have made it into this incredibly complex thing because of the times that we live in. Um Also, by way of introduction, I should tell people that I was a philanthropic advisor for a local community foundation. Um, well, that kind of demeans it. It's like one of the foremost community foundations in the United States called Seattle Foundation. Um, and I was a philanthropic advisor who sat at the shoulder of philanthropists as they were making these big decisions about where to spend their money. And I would always reframe it and say, this is the community's money that you are a steward of. And so, how are we
Yes.
working together hand in hand with the community to move these resources that ultimately were extracted off of the backs of predominantly Black
Yeah.
and also, Native bodies?
Mhm.
Uh, because those are the two cardinal sins of America, right? It's the
Yeah.
extermination or the attempted extermination of Native folks, and then the human trafficking of Black people. Like this is how wealth was generated in our world. And this is the trauma that we all carry within each one of these dollars that we touch. Is there's unfelt grief in them.
Mm, yeah.
And not everyone's ready for that conversation. So I wasn't the right advisor for everyone.
Mm, yeah. I mean, and there's those are everyone's who don't want to, well, maybe who need more advising than the rest, right? But
And I should also say, like,
right.
one of my core values has always been, like, uh, we all learn based on the capacity that we have to learn
Mhm.
at that moment, and, like,
Yeah.
nobody is disposable, and that un
Yeah.
it feels weird, but that also includes rich people. Like, belonging means all of us,
Oh, yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and so there has to be a seat at the table that, um
Yes.
where everyone is invited to have a seat,
Yeah.
and we have to hold that truth in relationship with the other truth, which is that 99% of resources are going into a very small amount of hands, and that is an untenable situation for most of our world. It is literally
Yeah.
killing us.
Literally killing us.
So um those are the sorts of, yeah, so that's by way of like introduction and why do I care about money and
Right.
like why do I care about the spirit. Like I've always been, I wanted to be the youngest monk in my sangha when I was very young, and so I've
Oh,
always very attentive to the reality in the worlds that are behind our eyes and which we walk through but we aren't
mhm.
necessarily seeing, you know?
Yeah.
And so I came across you and the work that you do, and we started working together back in 2018, and that was a really wonderful pivot point away from kind of the mindfulness and Buddhist principles that had been predominantly, my practices throughout my 20s and, well, even before, um, and coming into your like kind of more of a sacred worldview,
Mm.
um, love based, kindness based practices.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful. So that's by way of a little bit of an introduction and a little bit of like, Char, I love you.
Oh, Susan, I love you. I'm so grateful to work with you and to be together in this world at this time. And yeah, it gives my heart strength and gratitude. Yeah, appreciations extended.
Mm.
Yeah. And so, uh,
Oh, I didn't answer your question though.
yeah, I was gonna reframe it.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, how do I want to reframe this question? I also want to say hello to Mason and to Dana. Hi, Dana. Love you, platonic metamor. Yeah.
So the relationship between resources and energy. So I said all of that previous stuff to sort of touch on the fact that money and energy have been joined in my head for a long time, which is an interesting joining. Um,
Yeah.
and where it has always brought me, not always, when I became a philanthropic advisor and I started to really witness what was happening in high net worth families and in just the world in general, my eyes were very, very opened by that experience. Spent
Mhm.
8 years working with those folks in that way. Um, and what I realized is that money, just like energy, gets stuck.
Ah, oh, that's so interesting. Yes,
Stuck.
that is
And
true.
you have to do something
Mhm.
to unstick it or you will die. This is where
Yeah.
I wish.
Unstick it or you will die. Yeah.
And so, I see we live in a culture that is a white supremacist culture, right? Like it's, we live in a lot of hierarchies, and at the top of the racial hierarchy is whiteness. and there are rules for what whiteness means, and one of those rules is about hoarding.
Ooh,
And
uh,
and so but what that like the logical conclusion of hoarding is death, because it's stuck energy,
yeah.
and things need to move, things need to flow. We are 70% water. We
Yeah.
are not meant to be stagnant, and
Right.
everything that we touch is
Yeah.
also in that fluid way needs to be recycled,
Needs to be moving. Yeah.
be moving, it needs to be alive.
So, in your work and um, in your view, what helps with that stuckness? I mean, how do you work with someone who has a bunch of energy or stuck? I mean, it's like when you go into a home where someone is hoarding, there's so many things and more things than they could ever possibly use often.
Mm,
Um, and there's some kind of, yeah. So how do you help someone who has their, their home, their financial home stacked with boxes full of things that they don't really need and will never ever be able to use, and
totally.
so for some reason don't want to share, you
Yeah.
know?
So I only work with people who want to work with me,
Mm,
and I only work with people who want to shift something. And so one of the very first things that I would do as a philanthropic advisor is I would take people through an exercise wherein, me and the team I was on, we came up with, 20 different things that stand in the way of resource movement. Uh,
mm,
and I'll tell you right now, I mean, I don't remember every single thing that was on this kind of survey that we would put everyone through. But the number one thing, and this is not as it relates to like money in general. This is just as it relates to philanthropy. So the movement of money from, um, a, I was working with donor advised funds, which is a type of philanthropic vehicle. There's also like private foundations and other vessel, there's like supporting organizations and all these other things that you can use. But I worked with donor advised funds. So, um, people would come in and they'd set up a donor advised fund and they would put their money into it, and then it would be a completed gift. So it'd be a gift to the community that they would retain the recommendation rights for.
mm,
And so technically it wasn't their money.
right,
Technically it was our money as a foundation.
right.
But because the world is how it is, and we would just basically be, like a concierge service for their money.
Right,
But anyway, so I would put them through this. So in the intake process, I would be like, I want to get to know you more.
right.
Why aren't you giving away all this money right now? And by, by and large,
I love the bell. That was great.
let me turn off.
It's okay.
Sorry.
No, it's perfect. I was like, "That's ideal. That's" yeah. The mystery is working.
Um,
That's
by and
amazing.
large, what people would say in response to why they aren't giving away their money is that they don't trust nonprofits. There's a lack of trust. And I think
Interesting.
there's a lack of trust because a lot of folks don't come from worlds where they had to rely on nonprofits. And oftentimes they can't, I think we don't really trust each other in general.
Yeah.
The safety net, we're it's not built on trust. Like we are, again, going back to like core beliefs that stem from white supremacy. We believe that we are individuals. We believe that we do not need to rely on one another.
Oh my
And
it's a sad state
right,
of affairs. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a sad state of affairs, and
Mhm.
trust is, there's not a lot of trust. And so what my work would be, um, and this is like by and large was my work, was to connect and create a bridge between those donors and the communities that they were, looking to serve.
Mhm.
And so I would do that by getting them in front of those communities. So we would set up site visits, and then we would have lots of conversations about how to not harm organizations by going and visiting them at organizations, and I'd be like, "We have a donor thing," and it's like it's a white cis male who used to be a CEO. Like he's gonna have a lot of questions about your budget, and I've told him not to ask those questions, but he probably will ask those questions. So just have your budget ready.
Just, because it's a thing. Yeah.
Right, and I would
Mhm.
tell the organizations, "We are coming and we are bringing money." Like,
Yeah.
you have a guaranteed grant of $5,000. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I want them to get in relationship with you, and this is like the first step of that.
Yeah.
And,
And what
like,
Go ahead. I just
well,
is yeah, where it happens.
yeah, that's where it
Really,
happens.
this is where it happens. Everything is about relationship.
Yes.
It's yeah, and I think that that's what you're saying. That's what I hear you saying. What were you going to I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say everything like, that is
yeah,
the number one
right.
thing is relationships. It's the most important
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. And so getting this energy unstuck, the money unstuck, the flow, it sounds like to me is related
Mm,
to building trust. And I think also, from what you were saying in the very beginning, like we're all I mean, like if I have a roof over my head, I'm like the wealthiest person in the entire universe. You know what I'm saying? And I've had some pretty wild times and it hasn't always been that way, so when I have a roof that is safe, I am so happy. Um, and I think that there's also something about part of the spirit of I think you said abundance, part of the spirit of abundance is related to appreciation,
yeah.
"Hi, Brendan. Hi, Brandon. I'm happy you're here." So I think that there's something, I wonder about that, like, how do you how do you, um, open people to other ideas? How do you I mean, when you bring someone somewhere new or when you're introducing people who are not where one person is, like, maybe not conscious, completely fucking unconscious, and the other person is, right, like, very conscious or very aware or how do you introduce those or how do you create those openings for those 2 people?
That's a good question and a complex question. I would say talking about conflict, I think, has been one of the most useful ways of entering most
Mm,
relationships,
mm,
especially here in the Pacific Northwest, where we just don't want to believe that conflict will ever impact us. Other people have conflict, but we don't have conflict. Somehow magically we're going to be divorced from having any conflict in our life because we live in Seattle.
oh my gosh. Right, and I, like, train people in, like, conflict resolution and my mentors yeah, in the leadership work. Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of conflict avoidance, which creates a lot of conflict.
Yeah. Well, and what I've seen is, I'm just thinking about, um, I used to run so I was the senior philanthropic advisor for Seattle Foundation for a couple of years, and within that sort of role, I had to help younger advisors work with themselves and do kind of the dual bodies of work that are required to like work in a anti-racist manner in this field. So like one body of work is the personal work. So it's like you have to open up your own eyes type of work. And then the other
Um,
body of work is to create the systems that will produce liberation and dismantle the systems that are currently harming and oppressing folks.
yeah.
And so they kind of run in tandem. And so I ran a group of advisors. And that was the entire first 1 hour meeting was just what are the group agreements? How are we going to deal with conflict when it happens? Now let's practice. Like I actually had people because we this
Mm,
was in 2020, so people were, like, new to Zoom, and I was like, "Okay, I want everyone to come off, one at a time. I want you to come off mute, and I want you to say, 'ouch.' And this is what you are going to say if somebody in this group if you experience harm by somebody in this group or something."
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, it's simple.
My God. What a yeah. Just say. Just say.
Ouch.
Just say. Yeah. And you can.
Yeah,
And you can.
and then we will know that something has occurred. Something has occurred, and we and then, of course, there's all the sort of group agreements around, like, um, assuming best intentions and blah, 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 blah. And I would oftentimes reframe a lot of that and say, intentions don't matter. Impact is what matters. This is what you and I, you teach this a lot in your courses
Mhm.
about the importance of impact. Um,
Mm.
and we focus a lot on intentions, and no one can know what your intentions are.
Right.
It, like,
I was
I
like,
don't care.
"Hmm." Yeah.
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 Like, you just put your heels into my foot. I don't care that was
Not
supposed
you.
to be playful for you.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it was not playful for me.
Thank you for thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I think that, the conflict resolution work is one of the most important things. And I think people have a lot of internal conflict about money and spirit. I know that there's a lot of people have a lot of ideas about money and what it is and uh, internal conflicts, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Uh, and one of the things that one of the things that I used to do in my course was I would have literally give people like I don't know a $20 bill or $10 bill or something, and literally have them like be in a conversation with it like it was a person,
Mm.
you know, and just talk with the money about oh what is our relationship like and how are we getting along and how have you been and am I conscious of what's happening in this relationship or not conscious of what's happening in this relationship and so I think it is interesting even just to see it as like its own being and to be in a conversation with like, how do I relate to this thing? And it's not a thing. It's right.
Yeah, it's not a thing. It's your legacy,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
your self-esteem, it's your
Mhm.
impact in the world,
Mhm.
it's your safety. Like, it is standing in for a lot of things.
Right. Yeah, a whole village is like standing in for all the relationships. It's like,
Yeah.
what is the
Well,
relationship?
and totally, and, one of the, 2 things. So one thing is, just talking about the tools to get underneath the stories around money. There's some really good tools out there that do that.
Mhm.
Um, I used to be a 2164 trainer, not trainer, I don't know, not employee, consultant, whatever. It was a tool that I used a lot, and, I was on a list of people who could facilitate these
Mm.
sorts of things. But 2164 is, an organization. Well, I'm not gonna advertise them because they're on their own journey right now. Um, but there are tools out there that are really helpful. One of those tools simply asks the question, "What is your money story?" Like,
Oh,
what is the story that
wow.
was handed to you around money? And another, tool, um, is just a bunch of pictures. It's called Picture Your Legacy,
Mm.
and I have never seen and this is, like, to the point of, like, money is standing in for a lot. It's like holding a lot.
Mm.
I have never seen people cry more often than when they were using the cards. They're like these cards that just have pictures on them,
Wow.
just 70 or 80 just pictures, and I would prompt people, you know, what is the legacy that you wanna leave behind? Sort through these cards, make 2 piles, yes, no, and they would quick sort, and then I would take the yes, now sort, for, like, priority, like, what's the number 1 priority? And they would
Mhm.
sort and they'd have 3 or 4 things, and I've never experienced more people getting in touch with, like, that kind of wealth of grief,
Mm,
despair, love, trauma, all the stuff because the photos, just looking at the photos allowed you to actually, like, go a little deeper, and I would
mm,
have families that would come in and they would just be crying
mm,
together, and so then I had to start learning about family dynamics.
yeah. That's yeah, that's muy importante, very important. Yeah. Well, I think also that I think about the symbols. There's so many things that I'm thinking about wealth, and I'm thinking about what real wealth is,
Mm,
and, um, I I also paint. It's not
mm,
something that a lot of people know, but I love to paint, and I actually did an entire series of birds, and I gold leafed them all. So they were all done on a like a cream background or a black background, and, um, and they were all birds that were gold leaf, so hawks and sparrows and swallows um, and I call the series True Wealth. You know,
mm,
these all of these birds, like, this is our true wealth, like, the earth and nature and, there's so much plenty in the world. Like, we have so like, if I just go outside my I mean, of course, my mother is, who she is, both of my mothers, and so I know plants and I know how to find food and I know so if I go out, I'm like, "Oh, there's, Oregon grape and there's, a maple tree and there's just that there's so much wealth and so much, like, nourishment and trees, cross-culturally, trees are the symbol of wealth.
mm,
And I just find it so interesting that when we talk about the spirit of wealth that, we're cutting down, we're literally not creating other ways to build. We're not creating other ways, other resources. I mean, we are, but it's not it needs to be in my not so humble opinion, we need to be right. We could all be living in yurts. We could all be living in straw bales. We could all be cob homes are like they last for thousands of fucking years, right? So there's no reason for us to be, right, using up our resources in this way and not preserving what is good, true, and lasting. So I'm just curious, like, you know, what are you noticing about the soul of preserving what
mm.
is most needed at this time? Or I won't ask another question right away.
Okay.
I would wait for next.
I appreciate that. There's some interesting things happening in this period of time, um, that I think bear some thinking through, um, and I hope that the world will change because of it.
Mm,
So this is the largest wealth transfer, that has ever happened in the U.S. history
yeah.
right now. We're in the midst of it. Um, and by and large, the folks who are inheriting, they grew up in a completely different world from, their parents and their parents' parents. They grew up in a world that was, marked by connectivity. They know the stories. They oftentimes are rejecting, out of hand, the wealth that is coming to them.
Mhm.
Traditional advisors, traditional philanthropic and also financial advisors are scrambling to figure
Mm,
out, how they're going to deal with, this influx of, successors. Successors being, predominantly women and, people of like my generation. Um, and they're inheriting, at a huge rate and more money than we've ever seen. So my hope is that what comes of that is, an influx into our, just in the same way that we've seen, a great divestment by government from our entire social infrastructure,
Yeah.
civic infrastructure. Um, my hope is that um, parts of that will be retained by this wealth that's flowing in.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Mm.
because government is the largest
Yeah.
philanthropic organization, and we are just seeing the results of having government not value people.
Yeah. Yeah. I am curious about how do you connect well, first, what really matters to you at this time?
Mm.
And what really matters to you at this time? And how do you connect with what really matters to you in this time?
Uh, the thing that comes to mind is water. Water has always been an incredibly important thing to me. I don't know if I can say that it's the most important thing, but it's really the only thing that you can't go 3 days without, or 4 days, or however long. You there's like a hard there's like a
Stop.
hard yeah, like,
Uh,
there's some
mhm,
flexibility when it comes to shelter, there's some flexibility when it comes to food, but when it comes to water,
mhm.
it's like the most basic of the most basic of the most basic.
Just
Um And yeah, like the thing that feels really important to me these days is just to keep it basic. Like
right.
to keep very clear, very yeah, just water. It's
Mhm.
the most important thing.
Yeah,
Like and having access to free like clean water
yeah,
is really important. And it's becoming more and more rare, which is very sad.
yeah, yeah. And I think that, it's so interesting, like, there's this thing about being financially responsible, but, we're being so irresponsible with our water and our land and our we just there's just this rampant poisoning of everything, and at the expense of, to use use financial, like, at the expense of, you know, how did, I think there was Jane Goodall said,
Mm.
um, that, it's crazy that, we are, actively, destroying our only home.
Yeah, and somehow we think we're smarter than animals.
Right, right, like, our
What?
only home, right? And I
Yeah.
just she says, "Our only home." It's just kind of I'm ad-libbing to a degree, but really she's like, "We are destroying, we're poisoning our only home." And so, yeah, so I think that it's interesting, and water, of course, you were talking about, uh, a little bit about, um, symbols
Mhm.
and, symbols are one of the ways that we're impacted, like, we take in so many symbols and, usually we have, like, a spaciousness and we can dream and we can think about things and we can reflect and, but a lot of the reflection has gone into the box,
Mm.
and we're just so busy taking in so much that it's like our brains are being washed with other things, you know? And I think a lot of it has to do with the need. But I think about the water is, cross culturally is another symbol for abundance,
Mm. Mm.
and, which I think is really interesting, like, in my feng shui, teacher, I took feng shui many, many years ago from Suniva's mother,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
New York Dragomir Institute for Feng Shui, and I went and did classes with her for 2 years, so I'm still a beginner. I'm not like a feng shui. I'm just like I she taught me many wonderful things, but, like, mirrors are considered water and, there's different things we place in our home that reflect and, those things are, the reflective things are, right,
Hmm.
considered to be water. So, I'm just thinking that, it's interesting that we're not reflecting right now, you
Yeah.
know?
And it makes sense. I mean, to your point of like we're consuming so much, like we don't even use the term citizen as often as we use the term consumer. And so that I think gives a little insight to how we are thought of and how we think of ourselves. We think of ourselves as those that consume. And, isn't
Yeah,
that interesting?
consumers instead of citizens. Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I have Claudia Rankine's Citizen right here. It's such a good book. Oh my God. It's like one of my favorites. If you haven't read this, please read this. Yeah, it's an American lyric.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's incredible. Yeah, when you said that, I was like, oh, interesting. Citizen,
yeah.
fucking people. Anyway, citizen. So I think that it's that, what you're saying is to be, a community member, to be, and that's what we really need is we need to connect and actually invest
Mhm.
in, relationally and invest in each other and invest in, building something together that is sustainable, that's good for earth, water, fire, air, that all of those elements are um, well thought out
Mm.
for the people who aren't born yet. Like there's people who are coming here, right? There's people that aren't born yet. There's more people that are going to come here, and it would be good if we could leave them something, better than what we found. And so, I'm curious about your thoughts about that, and what opens for you when I.
Yeah. I mean, I think about my children. I have 4 biological children, 3 born, 1 on the way, which as a gay man was never part of the plan. Very exciting. Very cool. Uh,
I love
um,
it. Amazing. Well, the ones that I've met are.
um, and I think about, um, I mean, where are we without a future? I think about some lessons that I learned from fire, um, a few years ago when I was fire tending, one of which is about how fire always has a base of embers, and that's where a lot of the knowledge and the wisdom and the heat is stored. It has things that are working. Those are like the adults, the people who are doing the work,
Yeah.
who turn into the embers. And then you have new wood. You always have new wood. If you
I
don't have new,
love that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you have new wood, you won't have adults. You won't have more embers in the future. It's like very simple.
Mm. Yeah, and I love that, like, that's what we need is some simplicity. Yes, Anne Sharp is saying, "Yes, our descendants."
Yeah.
Yes, it is our descendants, and I love you're using that, the analogy of the ember, right? And then more wood um, and it's interesting because trees take a really long time to gather that energy,
Yeah.
right? So they're like my mom always said, they're like taking all of the energy, they're gathering the energy of the sun, the trees, and then when we like because I was raised on wood heat for most of my childhood and well, there was time when we were in Philippines and there were some other times, but we had wood heat in our home in the Palouse and and she said the sun is being released
Mm,
from the wood and it gathered that sun and it gathers it for a long time. And these things require patience and they require like you're talking about like a simplicity and a balance.
yeah.
And so I wanted to just I'm curious about balance. Like how are we going to do that? Like how are we going to
Yeah.
rebalance?
You know, for everyone is different. But I will say
Everyone is different, don't you know?
out.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, just like tracking back to the work that I was doing as an advisor, one of the ways that we would create this movement in the resources is that we would get. we would get the whole family together and um, we would go through a process of identifying what the family's values were. Water feeds the trees, trees feed the fire. Can't see that, extinguish the
Yeah.
fire.
Water extinguishes the fire.
Oh, it's
It says water feeds the trees feed the fire, water extinguishes the fire. Yeah, it's the cycle.
yeah, it's a cycle.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the ways to get that cycle to move in a direction is to land it in a value that touches everyone. So
Yeah.
what is the story of the family is oftentimes a question that I would ask at the very beginning. You know,
Oh,
what is the story of this family? And people would answer that question. Usually I'd ask that of the, first generation, um, either the wealth earner or the first inheritor of like multi-generational family, whatever. Whoever is the oldest in the room, I'd say, like, what is the story of this family? Um, and sometimes they would tell me a story of how the wealth was made, and sometimes they would tell me a story of what was at the core of this family,
mm,
and sometimes they would just tell me they would give me a little glimpse into the world that they live in. And my job was always to pull these threads from all of the individuals in the room and weave it,
mm,
something that everyone could agree on. And just because, the gay son has a green thread and the father has a red thread, and like if it was just the two of those, it would be a Christmas sweater, and not everybody likes Christmas sweater. Yeah. But then you have the black thread and a mother with a white thread, and all of a sudden you have like a tartan, and that can be
yeah.
very,
Ah,
you
yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
know.
And yeah, and I have a beautiful Afghan that you made for me actually that
Yeah,
yeah, so you know about those threads, pulling those threads together for sure, or yarn, however you wanna do it.
yeah.
You did it, it's beautiful, and that warmth. And so, I do wanna ask, um, how can we, uh what are some ways that you're galvanizing your voice at this time, and um, being honest and authentic and bringing your gifts to the greater good of your community and I don't really like the word modeling or example or it's just like I don't really like those things um, as ideas but might say being a warrior to the work at this time. How can one be a warrior in the world at this time around these things?
Yeah. Um, one of the things that I mean, I guess like the thought that comes to my mind is win the day by not picking up your phone.
Yes.
And like specifically, this has been I was a late adopter to the iPhone, and I wish
Mhm.
I had never adopted it. Although, you know, my adopted iPhone is a beautiful thing too, but I try to keep my phone as far away from my bed as possible. And
Mm.
the reason is that if I get sucked into that void early on in my day, then I will just be like trying to churn dopamine like nobody's business.
Mm.
And that is not a warrior's stance. A warrior has access to himself or herself or
Yeah.
themself. And what technology does is it takes your agency away. Um, because it's literally
Yeah.
it's reprogramming your dreams, it's reprogramming your reality, it's reprogramming your vision. There are children that have eyesight that's terrible because of all of the screen time that they're getting.
Oh, yeah.
There's physical impacts to these things in addition to psychic impacts, in addition to spiritual impacts. There's
Right.
emotional impacts. And I think one of the things is also that's been really helpful for me is knowing where I can plug in and make a difference and where I can't.
Yeah.
Because you can't, to be everywhere is to be nowhere.
Right.
And what is most important to me, Brene Brown has I'm not a huge, like, I used to love Brene Brown, and then I have some critique with her, and and now I'm like in a mixed place with her. But
As with all things, darling. You know, the way of things. Mm,
yeah, I guess
yeah, it is.
that's the natural order. Yeah.
You have
But
some passion work to do around Brené Brown.
well, I love her.
Yeah.
I love her.
Oh, me
And
too.
she, and there's some things, but she has this process of keeping, like a 1 inch, I think it's called the 1 inch card process, where you write down on 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch, all the people that are important to you. And it's like, it's a process of discernment. Where am I going to use my energy today?
Oh,
And
that's fucking perfect. That's so perfect.
yeah.
Love
And
that so much.
because we can't be
Yeah.
everywhere. And I think also, especially, I walk in a lot of activist communities, and, sometimes there's some performative activism that's happening, or there's like well, this is my number one thing, and it needs to be your number one thing if we're going to get along. And I'm
Oh,
like, no, this is not my number one thing. My
no.
number one thing is over here, and you can't tell me
Right.
that my number one thing is better or worse than your number one thing. We just have different priorities. This
Yeah.
is where conflict comes in, right?
Yeah.
Like, we need to understand, we need to move from a place of understanding that conflict will arise and we will make it through.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes, that's what it's about, right? Repair. We have to learn how to fucking repair.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. And yeah, because yeah, we're not it's that individualism I think that we're talking about earlier. It's just like, we're not taking care of each other anymore. We're not like,
yeah,
oh, how are you? How can we work together? What can we do together? How can we take care of our community together? How can we create a better world together? Not, well, yeah,
yeah.
it's what can I give, not what can I get, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So,
Well, and also repair requires grief, and grief requires feeling. And a lot of the
mm,
world that we walk through is not interested in feeling.
yeah,
It's actually really interested in numbing. It's numbing is what we do, and it's sexualized. Like, alcohol is this big sexy thing, and cigarettes are this big sexy thing. These are
right,
no tools.
yeah,
Doom scrolling on news or whatever, it might make you feel like you're being erudite, but you're really just numbing,
yeah.
and so, to go back to what I was saying, like, having
Please.
priorities.
Yeah,
Yeah, having priorities and knowing, this is some of the work that you do, is about understanding, like, where do I stand? What do I stand for? And what do I not stand for? Like,
right.
that's actually a winnowing process. You have to come
Mhm.
up with, like, the 3 or 4 things. Like, I remember when Aller was born, they're my, oldest child. When they were born, I was like, "Shit, I have to reprioritize."
Yeah,
I just sit myself down and say, "Okay, like, this child is now," like, and I'm not a parent. I don't wanna pretend like I'm a parent. I'm not a parent, just, but I had to be like, "This child is now the number one priority." Like, so if there is a decision that I need to make that is like career versus this child, I will choose this child now. I've made that agreement with
yeah,
myself. And and then the other thing, once once I created those priorities, um, then it's just about backing myself up
yeah,
and trusting myself and trusting what I don't know. So that's like the mystery of it all.
yeah.
I don't know. I might die. I might be the first person to die on Substack. I don't know.
I don't know about the first, there's some for a minute, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, bringing it to life, the life of creativity, right? Um, yeah, so I think that that's yeah, that's really, really powerful, and I wanna say, "Hi, Layla. Hello, Layla." And so this idea of symbols that we
Mm.
were talking about, and, I just wanted to ask, like, what symbols can we follow, or what symbols do you find yourself following? Like, right? Because those that's how we heal, right? Is the symbols that we're most drawn to. Like for a while I was very attracted to eggs and I had was collecting all these different eggs and um like I found an emu egg in an antique store and that's all about new life. Now I'm feeling really drawn to some other symbols but like excuse me even if we like look around our homes we can we can see like what are the healing images or what are the common symbols that I have or Angela said whatever we collect, right?
Yeah.
And so what are the collections or what are the healing symbols or because the symbols if we can follow the symbols we can find our way back home again if we can you know and pay attention we're talking about the feelings and I think one of the things that we've been doing is that I mean, if we were paying attention to our feelings and having our feelings, we would all I mean, right? But since we're numbing and we're not feeling in the moment and not responding from a place of authenticity and clarity because we're so out of touch with our feelings. So if we could be in touch with our feelings and express them in the moment in a way where they can, address and
Process.
resolve the shit.
Yeah.
Like, let's address this, and we can address it and process it and work through it. Um,
Yeah.
so I find that, those little guidance systems, like there's all these wonderful guidance systems, uh, and like the abundant earth, like the fecund, right? The fecund, the fertile, the abundant earth is like she's always telling us what to do. She's always speaking with us about what to do. And so I'm just curious about what symbols you're noticing and what symbols you're following at this time, and what kind of how are you getting your guidance around these things?
Yeah. Great question. Uh, it's interesting because while you were sharing that, I made a connection in my mind that I've never made before, that is really helpful.
Mm.
So, um, I have been working with the symbol of a buffalo, for
Yeah.
some time now, 8 years, something like that. And it's just like it it's been kind of an onion or, a flower blossoming, like, I see new things in it each time I kinda come to it, um, and it's been, a protector and a love of mine, and it's also, the buffalo is a symbol of abundance, and abundance, I think, is the most alive version of wealth that we have,
Yeah.
and the connection that I just made in my mind was that buffalo are money. Like, the way that we treat money, what we were talking about before, how, like, there's all this stuff that sits on money, right? Like, my safety, my shoes, my clothing, the food
Mhm.
I'm eating, the house that I live in, all of these things sit on money, and that used to be the buffalo,
Yeah.
lar and so how different is that to have
Yeah.
those right? And they're in relationship with one another.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that those synapses, which I think have been reaching for each other for a really long time, and then
Right,
finally
right. Yeah. Yeah. That's it's yeah. That's so interesting and uh it's really um the destruction of the buffalo,
yeah,
the complete slaughter of as many buffalo, I mean the total complete decimation of the buffalo herds in order to control the tribes, right? In order to destroy and decimate the tribes. Um, because that was the true prosperity, was that relationship between the animal creatures that, we're the animal creatures, they're the we're all the animal creatures in our interconnectedness. And I
Right.
think that like unplugging of who we are and unplugging us from our relationality with other beings and creatures that we're dependent on, right? We're dependent on each other. And, um,
Well, and what you're bringing up brings to my mind this really great question of, First Nations folks and specifically like Plains folks,
Mhm.
and their relationship with buffalo was reciprocal. There was some reciprocity. There was a built-in kind of ebb and flow, and there was a movement between them. Um, I mean, there's a reason why buffalo weren't afraid necessarily. I mean, they didn't have like very many natural predators. So that's one reason, but they didn't consider humans to be natural predators until
Yeah.
we started slaughtering them. We being like the white community of settlers started
Mhm.
slaughtering them wholesale. Um, because they had no reason to be, because they were in relationship
Yeah.
with the people. And that brings to my mind, like, well, what is the relationship between current humanity, American
Mhm.
citizen, and money? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know that there's a good one. Nothing's coming to mind that
Mhm.
feels good, but there's definitely like the images that pop up are like a dam. Like a dam comes to mind.
Yeah.
Um, or like ink, like some nasty inky. I don't know if you saw Fern Gully, but like the smoke monster.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's real. The smoke monster. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, there's some work to be done to
Mm.
shapeshift what is current to what was current,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think that that's the thing is that thank you for bringing that up, Stephen, because, the current that we're in now, I think that, one of the things I talk about in the class is that whatever currency we're using is the current that we're in, and so, unless I have a completely sustainable home and land and I have no need for anything, I don't need to buy gasoline and everything is running on solar and everything is right, or, we just don't have any need of that, then it's Brandon's like, "Oh yes, Fern Gully, watched it repeated." Oh, that's sweet. I'll have to watch a little YouTube thing, little YouTube thing on it. Um, so the current currency, like this current that we're moving with whatever current, we have to get into that river, that flow, and, globally, like, I have, like, a kissy penny, right, from Africa that was an exchange. Is a little metal, looks like a little golf club, right? It's like this little twisted, beautiful piece of metal, or the shells, or the bones, or the beads, or the right? All the salt, all the different things, tobaccos, things that we used to exchange, things that were considered valuable, different pelts, or if I, had a deer, then I would, be like, "Oh, could I trade some of my deer for some of your elderberries or so we had exchanges and that was our currency, right? As we would do these exchanges if I had this and you had that and those were, and then of course some people would travel to the sea to get salt and then return back inland with the salt. And so, but I think that, something about that is just like not taking more than we need. Like I think the thing is that, it's like animals, criaturas, like they don't hunt more than they need, right? A
Yeah.
mountain lion doesn't go out and, just randomly, unless it's not well, unless it's ill, right? It doesn't take more than it needs. It doesn't kill 5 deer. It only takes the very weakest or it it doesn't take indiscriminately. It
Yeah.
uses discrimination, and I think that's what we're being faced with now is, using our discrimination and we're being asked to change our way of life but not even only to change our way of life, we can have and go and be, but we have to use these ancient technologies and technologies of spirit and working with the, you know, authenticity and truth and kindness and connection and community and all of these things, while also working with the practical, which is we need to be discerning, we need to get renewable energy, we need to be looking at how we can replant and regenerate and revitalize and our communities and our planet together. And that's true abundance, you know?
I 100% agree, and I would say the flip side of that social um, kind of milieu that you're speaking about, the sort of like early um, relationship that people had when they were villagers, which I think is hopefully a reality that we're trying to return to, um, is the village reality.
Yeah.
Um, Another so you're talking about, like, taking only as much as you need,
Yeah.
and then the other side of that is actually the surplus side. So recognizing that if I've planted something and I have more than what I need, that it helps me to give it to my neighbors. It helps me because then when they have extra of what they need,
Yeah.
they add it, so it's that positive cycle that we can get into. And I think what's hard right now, especially for rich folks, is that the balance is so
Yeah.
out of sync that they feel like, well, nobody's ever going to give to me. And so it can't be that. I mean, that concept, that analog doesn't work anymore because we're so out of sync. We're not even neighbors anymore. We live in these highly, highly distinct areas of even within like a city.
Yeah.
The rich are living with the rich folks, the poor folks are living with the poor folks.
Yeah.
With a history of redlining, the black folks are living with the black folks, and Hispanic with Hispanic. We've done this thing that largely is a product of systems of oppression, um, and they've created this monster that we are now in charge of dismantling. And so, the way that I work with donors oftentimes is to recognize and love their humanity, and also get them connected with the reality that, like, this money is killing you,
Yeah.
and and you it is in your best interest to be a person who lives. I want you to live, and what living looks like is not what you're doing, you know?
It's generosity of spirit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
generosity.
exactly. It's, it's, Bell Hooks called it the ethics, love ethics,
Yeah, yeah,
love or love ethics. And it's just like, we care about each other. We share with each other. We give to each other. And
right.
it's just so interesting and, that, you were initially talking about the hoarding or the putting it away or, you know, well, when are you going to share? When are you going to share your life and your love and, your money? But, it can be done in a way where it really matters, which
Yeah,
is what I hear you saying. And it really makes a difference and has a positive impact. And so,
and
yeah.
it's my belief that, that wealth is like chains. The
Mhm.
chains, what is the famous quote? "The chains I forged in life, I now wear in my death." And that's why I named my consulting company, Generosity Unchained,
Oh my
because
gosh. I
that's the
didn't even
work.
realize that. That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
generosity unchained, yes. Yes, and so if you could let people know how they can reach you and if they would like consults on, grant writing and, where to your
All the
philanthropy
things.
efforts.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, all the good things that you're doing.
yeah. I
Yeah.
will let folks know.
Yeah. So, um, thank you so much, Stephen, for being with me and for this conversation. I think that talking about money and the soul and talking about, basic things like kindness and how to do this every little thing counts. And I think I would just wonder if you could leave people with some words about, you know, how to create, how they can create something good. And yeah.
That's wow, that's a great prompt. I'll leave folks with the reality is that the source that created us started with the Big Bang, right? That was like a very violent and very creative moment
Yeah.
in our collective history.
Mm.
And anytime we create anything, we are in direct relationship with the Big Bang because we are using that same energy in our hands or in our bodies or in our voices. Um, that was that was the same energy that was the Big Bang. And I find that to be inspiring sometimes, especially when I don't wanna do something. I always go back to, like, the Octavia Butler kind of like, "Just do it," you know?
Yeah.
Like, she was a big proponent of, like, not waiting for the sort of muses to knock on your door to get you to the writing desk. She was like, "You need to already be at the writing desk writing, and then the muses, when they knock, there's actually a portal that can be used by them." So,
Where you can
it
access. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. To which the absolute can manifest.
yeah.
Mm. So what do I want to create? Great place to leave off. Thank you, Stephen. What a pleasure. What a delight. I mean, we even went over. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you, Taylor and Anne and Brendan and Mason and Dana. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And Anne, I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, Taylor. Good
Right on.
night. Happy weekend. Mm.